How are you guys out there? This is episode number 461. And it is late. Yes, it is. I wasn't even sure if I was going to get the episode out today at all. After a brutal last few days, I decided to post up my last podcast with Brody Stevens. And if you don't know who Brody Stevens is, he passed away on Friday. And he was one of my favorite people of all time. And one of the greatest comedians I had ever seen. Brody started comedy in 1994 and never stopped. The words I could say about Brody could go on for hours, but one word that describes him was honest. No one I've ever met in Hollywood was more honest than Brody Stevens. Nobody. Brody had such an impact on people that after hanging out with him for a few minutes, you would immediately start talking like Brody and picking up on all his incredible sayings like 818 till I die. Positive energy. Push and believe. You got it. Numerous amazing sayings that I would always say when I was around him. I loved his style of comedy, and I looked up to him and often thought, I need to get that good. The level on stage of him just being him was amazing. We sat down and we talked back December 1st, 2016. It was a long conversation, an honest conversation, and it was one of my favorite conversations with a comedian ever and a friend. He did thousands and thousands of audience warm-ups, and he let you know it all the time. Over 3,000 audience warm-ups. He had a special. He shot a 1-hour special last year, and I had the honor to open up for him on that. And I got to see how happy he was. And I was so proud that he was getting a 1-hour special. I was just fired up. He shot it at his home club, the Comedy Store in the main room, where he would perform most Friday and Saturday nights in the last position of the night, known as the Sam Kinison spot. But I don't think anybody did it more than Brody. And I feel that spot is now the Brody Stevens spot and has been for years. He's done all kinds of amazing things in his career. He hosted the Oddball tour numerous times. He was audience warm-up for Chelsea Lately at midnight. Just, it's a massive hole in the comedy community, and I will never, ever forget this man. And I'm going to try to spread the word of him all the time by clips or pieces of his podcast or photos or whatever I can do. I love that man. And I can't believe he's gone. But I felt it was only right to put up this episode again and share it with all of you and hear the honest words come out of this man's mouth. It's inspiring, and I love him. Thank you guys for tuning in. That's what this episode's all about today. It's all about staying positive and looking forward and enjoying life. And my guest today, Brody Stevens, is definitely one of those guys. He He promotes positive energy. He promotes, a push and believe, as he would say, and I subscribe to it. Like I always say, promote what's great, not what you hate. And as cheesy as that sounds, it'll keep you waking up in the morning sane. And it was great to have Brody on. He's an amazing friend of mine, and I'm one of those guys that if I didn't do comedy, I would not know. So the reward of comedy to me is these friends, these fantastic friends that I have from stand-up, and everybody that tunes into this podcast, and the travels and the people I meet. All that shit is the rewards and the positive side of doing stand-up. Brody did the podcast about 4 years ago. He was in a different state back then, a different state of mind, and I truly believe he is far from that era and is pushing forward and kicking some ass. I love this guy. He makes me laugh every time, and he makes a lot of the Comedy Store regulars, the biggest ones, laugh. And all the audience, I love to look at their faces like, wow, this is amazing. Some people are like, what's going on? And there's nothing better than that kind of outside-the-box comedy, and I've talked about it over and over, guys that do it. You know, Johnny Pemberton, Rory Scovel, Brody Stevens. These guys I love to watch, because if you do stand-up like myself, it's interesting to watch somebody that does it in a completely different way. And that way being, I always think, how did they start that? You know, did they do that? Did they do that at open mics? Because I know how brutal open mics are. But it's definitely a level of confidence, and it's a original identity that I enjoy watching. And I love Brody, and I'm glad he came over yesterday. We talked for a long time, and it feels good when you can talk to a friend and get things out. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. If you've never heard Brody before, if you've never seen Brody, he had a show on a few years ago called Enjoy It on Comedy Central. It was absolutely funny. He's done over 3,000 audience warm-ups. He does audience warm-ups that just made me laugh my head off when I watched him. He also worked for Chelsea lately doing audience warm-ups, and Dalia's show, the last show, TV show that he had, Undateable. And he's traveled the world. He was with the Cubs during the World Series, spread some good juju on those guys. And he's just a fantastic human. So sit back and enjoy it. I love you guys. Keep the candles lit. Here he is, Brody Stevens. All right, here we are, another episode of Let There Be Talk. My good friend returns to the Let There Be Talk podcast couch. Good man, Brody Stevens. It's been, I looked it up, Brody. I think it's been 4 years.
That long?
Do you want to see something funny? Look, this is funny. Look at this. I got a photo of us.
Oh, man.
And I found
Let's see what I look like.
Because I want to, look, you look great. I look terrible. Look.
Oh, look at you. Yeah, that's a totally different guy.
That's years ago. 4 years ago, exactly almost. Isn't that crazy? And you still look the same. Great.
I look pretty good there. I do look a little younger there. I look a little, I don't know about happier, but.
It's fucking 4 years ago. Can you believe it?
And I'm wearing that red jacket. I don't even remember that red jacket. 4 years. You know what? Time flies, but in the scheme of things, 4 years is nothing.
Yeah, it really is.
That sounds like, I said time flies, but 4 years means nothing. I'm kind of means the same thing, but 4 years really is nothing if you live to hopefully 80.
Yeah, right?
That's the way I look at it.
I think back about 4 years ago, I think it was when you kind of had that meltdown with the meds and everything, right?
Here we go again. I remember last time you went right into it.
No, I just brought it up because, man, I think you've come so far.
I could always go back.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. You know, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, ooh, things got to me. It was, I made an error in judgment, meaning that, you know, it's common for people to adjust their meds for various reasons.
Yep.
And I was never on them because I had any kind of issue to begin with. I've never had any issue. The only reason I ever got into looking into maybe taking something was just to kind of quiet my mind and stop being hard on myself.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of it.
Focus.
A little bit of focus,
Yeah.
a little more focus, I think.
Yeah, were you a big ADD guy? Because I am, like my brain just goes all over the place,
I think it's more like a Jewish Gemini guy. I don't know, just an active mind. I hate to say I'm Jewish, but there is common craziness that goes on in that kind of mind, I feel. And no, I was playing baseball. I felt like when I moved up to Seattle and I first began comedy, it was like my mind is working.
Right.
But I was doing comedy and it didn't feel good. Meaning I didn't have that buffer. I'd go up there and I'd get laughs, but I'd get laughs based off you guys you don't like me.
Confrontation,
How dare you?
yeah.
That kind of thing.
Were you doing that at the beginning? That kind of, look at me, arms crossed, negative. Were that out of the gate? That kind of cool thing?
No, that developed, from warm up, definitely, from doing cable access in Seattle, just kind of, people liked when I got mad. See, when I first would get frustrated, them not laughing at me, it hurt me. It didn't feel good.
Right.
And on top of that, I just felt I was on my own. I was out of baseball. I had to create structure. I had to start my life, and it was something that I never really thought I'd do. I was going to try and play baseball as far as I can go, get my degree, maybe be in sales. I don't know.
Right.
But
You're just doing it to explore it, right?
Yeah, just like
fun.
anybody.
Right.
But it didn't feel good because some people would say, oh, you always wanted to be a comedian. It's kind of like I got into comedy because I took a serious acting class at Arizona State. I'll try and do that. But I was getting laughs. And then I would try and do something else serious. They're laughing at me. So I go, why fight it?
Yeah.
And I wanted to get into radio or sports, but one guy said, hey, Brody, you should do stand-up. And I never did stand-up at Arizona State. I was right across the street from the Tempe Improv, but I was so focused on baseball and graduating.
You pitched, right?
I did pitch. I was, I pitched 25 innings in 5 years, but I hurt my arm. I hurt my elbow right when I was going to get a chance to pitch with a little bit of a safety net.
Wow.
Because every time I was pitching, I felt like I was competing for a job. I was competing for the next time.
Right.
So
kind of like comedy. When you start out, it feels like you got to always rock it or you're not going to get asked back. That fucking feeling,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about open mics, but once you start working in rooms, my real fear was, I better not bomb because they'll be like, this guy bombs. Don't have him back,
Yeah, well, for me, it was just, I didn't think about bombing. I always thought about, I'm just going to push and push. I think sports taught me, baseball was hard. I had to really work hard just to be on the team.
Yeah.
Whereas comedy, I can kind of just get up there and talk and get laughs.
Yeah.
You mean,
well, you're great. You got a great persona, It's an interesting, I love to watch guys like you or Rory Scovel or Johnny Pemberton, guys like that, that I watch that are outside the box. You know what I mean? They're not classic writers. They're writing in their mind or on stage or maybe behind the curtain. I don't know. But when they come on, it's a total different format, which I love. It's a freedom.
Yeah, I backed into it. I tried to get up there when I began in Seattle telling jokes. I think this is, even when I took my comedy workshop at UCLA, I go, okay, I'm a comedian. Tell my jokes. Maybe act it out. And nobody would really laugh. And I go, come on, this is funny. And then they would laugh.
Yeah.
And then I go, okay, well, maybe I'm onto something. And then, so when I left LA after one open mic, and I went to Seattle.
Where was that open mic?
Chatsworth.
Chatsworth.
And my car got rear-ended. The guy, he was drunk. I saw him. I was on stage. I can see out the door.
Yeah.
And the guy backed into my car.
While you're on stage?
Yeah.
Talk about a fucking sign, maybe not to do it right.
He broke my brake light.
Wow.
And he was drunk. I knew he was drunk, but they paid me out of the pocket. But that was in Chatsworth.
Did you run off stage after him?
No, I think he admitted to it. I mean, I now look, this was 1994.
94. How many?
Maybe 93. Oh, I'm sorry, 1993.
How many years you got going here now?
Well, I say my official start point is February 94.
Wow.
And I knew because I took a workshop here at UCLA. I needed structure.
Yep.
And I wanted to see if I liked comedy. So every week I'd be driving to UCLA from the Valley. And I was excited. Oh, I'm going to do my 2 minutes in front of my classmates. And Pauly Shore's sister was the teacher.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew at the end we would have our final show at the Comedy Store.
Right.
So I would do the class. And from that, after the class, I'd always talk to Sandy Shore after just talk about more comedy. And then I'd always drive by the Comedy Store and look at it and go, well, maybe one day I'll perform there. But I never went in. Maybe once I did.
Who were you into back then? Do you remember? Were you watching any comedians like Carlin or anybody?
No, I was never really like a big stand-up fan guy. I like baseball. You know, I liked everything baseball. When I got into college, I liked Beavis and Butthead. I liked
great shit, right?
You know, wrestling was funny.
Yeah.
Of course, Howard Stern, but I also felt like I didn't want to listen too much to that because I felt like, maybe that would rub off on me.
Right.
Everybody liked Dice in 1988. That the when it's first,
Dyson Kinnison.
Dyson Kinnison, exactly. And I would listen to Jackie Mason cassettes.
Yeah,
he was funny.
Yep.
Pauly Shore. Adam I guess I did. I mean, Adam Sandler.
What about Jonathan Winters? Were you into him at all? Because he's kind of outside the box big time, you know?
No, I knew he was different. I remember him like from being on Mork and Mindy.
Yeah,
he was
right.
a guest on that.
I forgot about that. He was the baby.
But I knew that Jonathan Winters, his big thing was like he went into a psych ward.
Exactly.
He like voluntarily went in there.
Exactly.
So I kind of, it's like we talk about what happened to me, and it's kind of like what's happened to Kanye West a little bit.
Yeah, right.
It's
the pressures of a lot of stuff can fucking grab you out of nowhere, and you don't even realize it. Like, because we don't sleep a lot, we work 7 nights a week, and we're constantly stressing, hoping that we get work. And it's a very, very weird world. You're eating bad or whatever, and all of a sudden it can just grab you, like boom, and you're like, holy shit.
Well, that's why you have to stay positive.
Yep. That's what I believe.
Believe in yourself. Like I don't even like mention doing bad. I don't even put that thought. I just push forward. Yep. In fact, when I'm on stage, like at the Comedy Store, and there's like somebody in the crowd I respect, or maybe a celebrity, or a friend of mine, maybe like a baseball guy, I can turn it up a notch.
Yeah.
I know I can go for it. When my back's against the wall, I could be Brody. I could be professional. I can do that. And that's just from doing it for years and years. But I also feel, we're talking about like, hey, I started in 94. I got into warm-up in 2000, like 6 years into it.
Yeah.
Learning from scratch.
What was the first show you warmed up? Let's tell people these sitcoms and in Hollywood have an audience warm-up because there's a live audience in there, and they're just fucking, sometimes they're, tourists and stuff, and the original excitement wears off after about an hour, and they're going to be in there 4 or 5 hours, and they need a guy that gets it going.
Well, they have those 4 to 5 hour deals. I've done a few of those. My strength, and I got it from anything that has a live audience with the TV taping. No matter what it is, they usually bring in a guy to keep them warm, get them going.
I watched it. It was awesome to see. You did
were at a couple
midnight.
Shows. Yeah. So I was. I did 3 years in Seattle, found my voice. I learned all about how the comedy club at the Comedy Underground, we had Joey Diaz, Josh Wolf, Craig Gass, Mitch Hedberg, back in Seattle. It's right after the boom, but you saw the fundamentals of a 3-person comedy club show in Seattle. So you learned from a lot of the guys there.
You seeing a lot of Mitch back then?
He was only there for like 5 months maybe.
Right.
But I remember he used to hang out with Chaz Ablin, who's kind of a character guy. I remember Mitch hung out with some interesting guys.
Yeah.
But I knew he liked me. He said something. I mean, I only met him like once there, but I knew he was there, and he was, doing road gigs and all that. And Seattle was just a great place. So many San Francisco comedians would come up, and a lot of the Seattle comedians, they all worked the cruise ships. They did corporate gigs. It was just a great place to start and have real audiences. And I did cable access because King County in Seattle had the second largest per capita viewing audience.
Wow.
So when I started doing this cable access,
I saw some of that on YouTube. It's awesome.
Well, Tana and I did it with James Inman, who's a comedian in Kansas City, but Tana and I, we kind of really found our own, just having fun. He was Samoan, I was Jewish, and we were kind of just bringing some energy, young guys or new to Seattle, but also just new to comedy.
Yeah.
And having fun and taking live calls, yelling at the camera, but we were having fun.
Yeah.
And people liked it.
Yeah.
I'd walk on the street. I get recognized in Seattle. Jews and Samoans rule the world. Yes. So that's what a lot of it is, listening. With comedy or, anything, you do what you like, you feel your instincts, and if you're getting laughs on it, even better. Then hey, I'm doing that right thing. So I learned by doing that TV thing, I could be funny on live TV and just having fun.
Yeah.
So I saw that, but I also felt like it was taken away from my stand-up.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I'm doing this TV thing and I'm being a character, but I also felt it took away from my stand-up.
Yeah.
And I started in Seattle. It's like you're only known where you start. Like I made it up to guest spots.
Yeah.
You made it that far.
Yep.
And then I remember Joey Diaz told me, he says, Brody, you got to go to New York. Go to, I've told these stories before, but go to New York. They'll just talk. Go there. And I went to New York, and my friend was working with the Yankees at the time. I got a job working with the Yankees. So I knew I'd have a friend out there, get to see Yankee games.
Where are you living at in New York?
Well, when I first got there, I stayed in like a weekly apartment up on like 116th and Broadway up near Columbia. And
how much was it? Do you remember?
Oh, it was like $400 a week. I forget. I mean, it was like $400 a week maybe. This is back in, 97.
Right.
And Bushman Lahai was in the
Bushman.
He was in the hotel with me. It was the Malibu Inn, West Malibu Inn,
Malibu Inn.
Yeah, on 107th and like Broadway.
Wow.
And I stayed there for a couple months, and it was like weirdos in there, but not that bad.
Yeah. Did you save up some money? Were you working jobs? How'd you get out to New York?
In Seattle, I worked at Red Robin.
Yeah.
I sold T-shirts for the Seattle Supersonics, so I worked at the Supersonic team shop.
Just pocket a little money, like when you're not looking.
Oh, you know that? Oh, you know that story? No. Well, I'm
3 for them, 1 for Brody. Right? a built-in tip. Hey, you got to.
Dean. You know what I'm saying.
I know. Yeah, I've been there.
But I'm there. I'm selling my T-shirts, and I remember like Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses.
Wow.
He was there, and Jeff Ament. Like we'd get a lot.
Really?
Yeah, they went to Sonic games.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
And I'd work the tunnel, so I'd work before the game from the team shop to the stadium. So. I'd work in the tunnel.
Yeah.
And so selling the T-shirts, like that Left Shrimp T-shirt, Sean Kemp, half off, we got it, what do you need? So I learned like public speak out there.
Right.
And then I would do halftime, then I would do the end of the game. So it was fun. And then I lived in the neighborhood. I would just walk home. And I also learned about coffee. I'd go to the Uptown Espresso. So I went to Seattle to get completely away from Arizona and be in a creative environment. And I wanted to be around rain. I wanted to be around snow-capped mountains and fresh air, because just growing up in the San Fernando Valley, being around baseball, maybe my old friends, I needed something new.
Yeah, a challenge. I believe that, man. Like, I've been going to New York every month, and of course I know the comedians there when I'm at the club, but other than that, I'm walking those streets, man, solo, and it's... at 50 years old, and I'm really like, this is fucking cool. You just I feel like I'm starting all over, but I'm not, but I'm just in a different city walking around. I don't know people. I don't know how to get places. I'm like subwaying it. It's good.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I love the energy of New York. When I went to New York, I lived in that Malibu Inn, and then I had to find, I just jumped into the open mics.
Yeah.
So I knew that Surf Reality, Lower East Side, everybody gets 8 minutes. It wasn't like, oh, you hope to get put on the show and get to do 4 minutes in a comedy club. This is 8 minutes. It's artists, it's comedians, it's weirdos, it's everybody. It's open love. It was Face Boy show.
Right.
On Sunday nights, it was like, that was the show to do. And then Wednesday nights, it was Reverend Jen, the anti-slam, and that was positive energy. Most people got up on that. That was on Wednesdays. So there's a whole Lower East Side scene of alternative and comedians and artists and music.
That's cool. Anybody that we might know back then that was rolling in that too?
A lot of the, writers from Conan, like, Dan Cronin, Josh Comers. Sulkin would do it sometimes, I think, but he was around the scene. Alex Sulkin from Family Guy.
Right.
Sklar Brothers, Jeff Ross, myself, Liam McEnany is out here. Just a lot of guys passing through. But the key was for that show was people wanted to get on Luna Lounge. That was the show.
Luna Lounge.
So I felt like Surf Reality was a feeder room to Luna Lounge on Monday nights, and that's where they had, Dave Chappelle, UCB, Mark Maron, Janine Garofalo, Todd Barry. That was like the spot to be.
Wow.
So once I got there after 3 years, my goal was to come back to LA at 2000 when I'm 30. And then once I started doing Luna Lounge a few times, I got to host it.
Yeah.
I got to do it. And I'm up there with Dave Chappelle, Todd Barry, Janine Garofalo, Marin, and I'm holding my own.
Yeah. And you're doing the style of comedy you do now where you're doing like negative energy.
A little bit. I mean, I remember I definitely remember my breakthrough sets. I remember... you're talking about walking around New York. I would, on Sunday nights, for example, I would work. I was a waiter in New York. I worked at Cafe Un Deux Trois. I was also a tour guide at Radio City Music Hall.
That's cool.
So I wanted to see if I could be funny on the East Coast, if I could make these.
That's exactly what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. It's a different crowd. They're maybe a little more honest. They're a little
more
tougher.
Well-read. They might read. They also have real jobs, you know what I mean? It's just
weather. It's a tougher way of life. It's just different.
Yeah. They have some of their own voice. They really believe in different politics and religions and different cultures and everything. It's a lot like San Francisco, Yeah,
and you get the European tourists, whereas California, we seem like Australia and Canada or whatever. But I did. I did that, and then I barked at the Comedy Cellar. For about a year and a half. I barked out there because I thought it would lead to stage time. Because the guy who was doing it before was an open micer with me, and there's some good open mics. And he said, "Hey, Brody, Manny, the owner of the club, he likes me. He's offering me spots. I'm not even ready to do it, but I'm barking." He says, "I think you should do it." So I went down there and started barking, and I thought it would...
Did you ask?
I didn't have the confidence. That's the thing. I didn't have the confidence to ask Esty to let me, try and do it or get in there.
Yeah.
But all the while, I was doing Surf Reality. I was running my own room on Monday nights where I'd get 18 comedians up, so I was hosting. I was passed at Stand Up New York, and I was there with Josh, who has the Josh and Josh show here at Bar Lubitsch, and John Viner, who, a lot of these guys I started with, and they started moving out to LA. That was another thing. I kept in touch with them. So when I was done with New York and ready to come back to LA, I already had friends working at these TV shows.
That's great.
So when I came out here, right away I got Kilborn. Right away I got Premium Blend on Comedy Central because people who booked the Luna Lounge booked Comedy Central Premium Blend. So I got 2 spots on TV right away.
Wow.
And it got me passed at the Improv, Laugh Factory, and Comedy Store pretty quick.
Wow.
Bobby Lee recommended me, I remember. But this is, I was still doing open mics out here. It didn't happen right away, but it happened fairly quick.
Did you do that open mic at the 101 Cafe ever?
I did the book show. Adam Grotman would book it. I think it was on Thursday nights. And that's one of the first shows. I wanted to go there because he did a good job of bringing in like Patton Oswalt, Zach, Sklar Brothers, maybe Jeff Ross back there. Like, he brought in some good names. I heard that thing was
killer. Bobby Lee.
Well, yeah, Bobby Lee lived in the same building as Adam Grotman.
Right.
So Adam Grotman always told me about Bobby Lee. So Grotman, who I just saw at the Improv, he's a character. He writes for the LA Weekly now, and he ran that show at the 101.
Wow.
So it would be in the back there.
Yeah.
And it was a fun little room, and I remember it was a good opportunity for me to interact with like Maria Bamford and Zach, and so Adam Grotman did a good job with that, and he kind of recommended me to Bobby Lee, and then Bobby Lee helped me get in at the Comedy Store, and I already had, and I grew, like I said, I was taking that, it all kind of came full circle because I took the workshop at UCLA, and our graduation was at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
And then growing up in LA, my mom's boyfriend lived over there on Holloway, off La Cienega there. Yep. And from the balcony, I could always see the lights of the Comedy Store. So I was never like, ooh, I want to be a comedian and Eddie Murphy or whoever it was.
Right.
But I knew the energy of the Sunset Strip. I could feel it. So I'm very...
It was electric back then, right?
Yeah, it was just electric.
The Strip, it was just crazy. You go down the street, people are cruising. There's rock clubs everywhere.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of people in the street. It was even kind of seedy. There was like hookers and drug dealers. You could actually get drugs on the street back then.
Yeah.
Remember that? That was weird.
I mean, the 80s in LA, it was the place to be.
Oh, yeah.
It was, you had the Lakers, the Dodgers, the rock and roll, the Sunset Strip, Venice Beach, Valley Girls. I mean, everything was rocking in this town, and those were good times. And I remember, growing up in the Valley, going to the beach in the summertime, and the hot weather, and then the haze and the smog back then.
Oh, remember that?
Back then it was smoggy.
Oh, my God. It was just, they would have those smog alerts, remember? And you have to stay in. Like, your fucking eyes would
I remember
be burning.
I went to San Dimas to Raging Waters, and you go out there, like, lungs are hurting way out in the, San Gabriel.
Yeah, right.
But that was, my first... that Comedy Store pulled me in.
Yeah.
It was just from a kid in the 80s. So I always had that. And that's one reason why I'm kind of loyal to it, but nothing against the other clubs or anything of that. But
it's definitely more a spot that feels good towards people like us that are rock and roll and lunatics.
There's a cool factor to it.
Yeah, there is, and it's just kind of loony, you know what I mean? Which makes us all fit in, because there is that other kind of side of the shiny sheen comics that are like, I'm here for business, do my set, then hopefully someone recognizes me, I get on TV, never do comedy again. It's just a stepping stone. There's a lot of that type of person, Yeah. The Store does not have that. It's just outlaws. You know what I mean? It's just great. It's just outlaws and crazies, and it's a big family, and it feels great. If you're one of the types of people at the Store, you recognize it right away. You go, wow, this is my place. It's like that bee on the fucking Blind Melon video.
Yeah.
The gates open and you're like, whoa, there's other people like me here. You know?
Well, last night, for example.
Exactly.
Even the last 2 nights for me doing the podcast, like I did Kill Tony and just mixing it up there, and then doing the roast battle, going up and having Jeff let me be a guest and comment, and seeing all the fun. I was up there. I was like, wow. And it kind of, you talk about going to New York and feeling that again. It was kind of like that for me, actually. Last night, I did a show out in Brea, the Improv, kind of out of my comfort zone. Tuesday night, the guy asked me to come out there for a few bucks, and I did it. I wasn't looking forward to it, actually. I had, kind of not dread, but it was like a road gig.
I know.
And
because you say yes like a month out. I get that all the time in the hall. Hey, could you do this? And you go, yeah, sure. Just email me and remind me. And then that day comes and you're like, oh, fuck, the 60. I got to go up to 60, and I could just go to the store. And
there was a little. I was prepared to drive. I drive. I'm okay with that, actually.
Yep.
Because I'll just leave after 7. But it's more of just the road gig. It's like going on the road. I do have a comfort zone in the TMZ, the 30-mile zone, or at the Comedy Store. So last night, I'm professional, and I mean, I'm going to do it. So I drove out there, and I had a couple friends at the show, and I did Bray. I've only done it one other time, and the crowd was nice. They were a little older, a little conservative, and I had fun. As long as I've learned. You learn to have fun. The twinkle in my eye. That's what Kirk Fox always tells me. So I did the show. It was like, okay, good. It felt like it was a little bit of work, but it was good. And then I drive back to the Comedy Store and, see Louis C.K. there. I see you.
It's electric. Whenever Louis shows up, or Chappelle or Chris Rock, the place takes on an extra jolt of adrenaline. Everybody's fired up because it's all our favorite guys. We love these kind of guys.
And you really did put it in perspective for me last night. Not that I was bummed about being bumped by Louis C.K. or anybody. It doesn't happen all that much. But the way you said is like, hey, this is great. It's going to be on the Instagram. It's going to give us crowds when he's not here for the next couple months. So you help me. Not that I was upset or bitter or anything. Right. It's like, okay, yeah, that's actually good. We want that.
It really is, because it turns it into, over and over, these guys could go to any club. They could go to the Factory or the Improv or anywhere, but they go to the store, and constantly it creates a positive buzz on the place. And then when you or I go on a lot at 9 first. And I remember 9 2 years ago, there would be 4 fucking people. And I'd be like, fuck, I'm on at 9. But now 9 is sold out. And I'm like, this is great. I'm on at 9. Or I could be on at midnight and it's still half the room because it was so sold out.
Yeah. I tend to do the midnight ones.
Right.
It's like, first of all, New York, I know what you're talking about walking around. Yeah. That was a big deal for me. On those Sunday nights, I would take the L train from Brooklyn, and I never missed it. I was there. I didn't never blew them off. I did, like how you're dedicated. I was dedicated like that. I did it every Sunday. Get on the train, 7 o'clock. I knew I'd be at Avenue A or First Avenue at 7:15. Then I'd get off the train. I'd walk down Avenue A, because it still had that edge back in 97, but it was cool. Yep. I put my headphones on. I just visualize I'm a rocker. I'm feeling it. And I walk down Avenue A, see all these cool people. And then I'd go to Surf Reality, and I would, you'd draw the bucket. You'd get on early or get on late. And you just walk around New York. You felt the energy. Now, this is before cell phones and before
your eyes are taking it all in. Its eyeballs are your Instagram to the brain.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's just taking snapshots over and over. Your eyes are going, whoa, weird prostitute. Check out the junkies. Uh-oh, a fight going on, And that's all delivering messages for later on bits.
I mean, for me, it was just kind of the architecture, the subways, the personalities, the people.
Absolutely.
I would hang out at Carmine's Pizza right there on Graham Avenue. He's a local Brooklyn guy. I'd go, hey, Brody, what up? Give me a hard time. And that's how they were. And that's how they were honest. And I learned that. I learned about the honesty, and I just learned about living in New York. It's a hard life, taking the subway, and then the summer weather. Okay. And I got out of it what I wanted to get out of it. But I remember a breakthrough that I had was going to Surf Reality and just talking. I remember it was just ranting about walking down First Avenue, something about ice cream. I got an ice cream cone. It was no good. I couldn't get a refund. It just upset me. And I remember people laughed.
Yeah.
And then my friend said to me, he says, you should just keep doing that. Just talk. And people told me to talk before, but that was talking with a little bit of fire behind it.
Yeah. And that is really the essential of your style, which I love to watch. It's great. And I also enjoy going on after you because it's very hard, because it's a different style of comedy, and you got to reset the room, and you gotta go, okay, that's Brody's thing, but now here I am. And I love the practice of that, of going on after you or an Ingram, where people think it's very hard, but I think that's the challenge of it. Each guy has a thing, and if you can do it right after the other guy's thing, then it's rock solid.
Every time I go off at the get off the stage, when I do the original room,
Yep.
I'll stay on the stage. I will, respect the show. When I'm the last guy or in the main room, I'm the last guy. Yeah, I'll play drums. I'll walk in the crowd. I'll really throw it off.
Yeah.
But I would never do that, if somebody was after me. But I am different. I am loud, and I maybe do the thing the way I do. I'm trying my best.
Totally.
And I do know, like, every time at the Comedy Store when I'm doing like an 11:45 spot or whatever, and you or Steve Simone or Owen Smith or whoever I'm around at that time, they always like do a little comment like, that was Brody. Brody's like out of, yelling. And I'll be in the room and somebody go, yes, you got it. I'm still here. Like Tony will say stuff. So it is kind of, you could take it like, I know they're doing it to kind of reset the room.
Right.
But it is a fine line because some guys could be, if you don't know me, they'll be like, if I don't have a relationship with the guy and they do it, it is a little bit irritating.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy's yelling. What's wrong with this guy? I'm getting laughs, by the way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I always like to recognize it and have a banter with you in the room because that kind of makes it funny,
of course,
between the two of us. And then as you walk out,
you got to walk out and let the guy do his thing.
Exactly.
But it is no, you're right. That transition's a weird thing, and I get stressed with intros. It's not an easy thing, and you do want to set up the guy to do or girl to do well after you. And intros make they make a
big difference. You can tell if somebody gives you an icy intro. Like, this next guy does clubs and colleges. Right away, it's like the most shitty intro is clubs and colleges. Next guy does clubs and colleges all over America. First of all, I've never even been to a college, and second of all, come on. We've been in here for years. Just fucking.
But that's how those like road, maybe these like
road guys.
A weekend special road gig or, whatever you just deal with. But you could tell it's like some.
Nobody does that at the store. Everybody does the kick-ass intros because they all know. It's like this is a rough ride in here.
Yeah.
And bring it up as good as you can.
And you know what I feel good about the store? I feel it's like guys like me and you and these late night guys, and we kept it going. We kept it. I feel like, Don Barris with the craziness and me hanging out and, Jesus and you doing your spots and, even Tony Henchcliffe back in the day doing late night spots. We kind of bridged that gap and made it, I feel like, kept the life going. And then, you have Adam come in, the new booker, and he's mixing it up. And so I take pride in knowing that the Comedy Store is what it is because I'm not a Johnny come lately. I'm been a guy who's kind of like just grinding it out. And to be honest, it does feel good when guys give me intros and they're like calling me a legend. It's like, whoa. I mean, I'm not asking for that.
Yeah.
And I don't look at myself as a legend, but I guess if you're performing somewhere long enough, they'll do that. So it's just.
I feel good about that too. Like I started comedy at 44.
Yeah, wow.
So that's a weird thing.
Yep.
So I'm part of the weirdos, you know what I mean? If you just throw it in there, it's like, this guy's 44. What's he doing here? Like, a lot of guys are in their 40s, but they don't start at 44, And then it's like that original thing of late when we were all working was just crazy, right?
Yeah, it's just. I mean, for me, I just like going to the Comedy Store. It feels like a club. It's like the Friars Club. It's like a private. It's not even private. Yeah. It's open to everybody.
It's a treehouse of insanity. I love it, man.
Yeah, and they do a good job with the shows, and it's good natured. There's not really negative energy. I know the Comedy Store had a reputation back in the day of negative energy, and I was a little intimidated by people when I first got there, but I kind of rose above it. And then, the guys kind of would go after each other.
The hazing.
Yeah, but I think that roast battle and maybe even Kill Tony kind of satisfies that need for these guys to be. You want to be negative? Go to the roast battle. Make it funny.
Yeah.
Like, there's a way to do it, whereas before it used to be maybe guys picking on each other in the hallway or doing stupid stuff. I feel like now, just comedy in general, there's so many outlets, whether it be a podcast or a Periscope or creating that roast battle
Absolutely,
show.
man. Absolutely. That gets the stress out. And I also think the longer you work with a bunch of guys, there is that kind of competition and kind of, edge. But slowly but surely, if you're working your ass off, each person kind of gets something in their own time. And then it seems to be like, okay, we all start to fit in. And it's like, all right, at first people are like, well, he got this and scorekeepers. But after a while, you're like, okay, I got something now. And then, he got something. And then it just all feels like, we all are fucking winning here in the store. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's always about putting out positive energy. I mean, I know it sounds kind of cornball.
I say the same thing, dude.
But just like when I did warm up, I'm never negative towards these guys. Like, I should be on the show. I'm funnier than him. Yeah. Why is he that? I said, I'm gonna make you shine. I'm gonna get these guys, because that's just how I was driven, and I still am kind of like, I see somebody who might be a jerk, but I try to focus on the nice part of them. I try to.
Yeah. And I also say promote what's great, not what you hate.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean?
Promote what's great, not what you hate. And I learned that from baseball, from focusing on positive, making it fun, not complaining. They used to say freshmen are to be seen, not heard. And I got over, being, like just baseball being, they coach you with fear, fear of running. And I just turned it into positive, and we learned all that visualization about focusing on the positive, the psychology of coaching, and me playing baseball, just going there and being not hazed, but being picked on.
Yeah.
You're a new guy. Jewish guy in Arizona, gangly, getting picked on.
Yep.
But I knew it wasn't me. That's how it was, because I got picked on in high school also. Yeah. I heard all this stuff. So
that's how it was when I showed up at the store. And then you realize as you're reading the Dying Up Here book and you start getting the back history of the people that hosted the potluck, like Danish and O'Neill and all that stuff. When you find out, it's not personal. It's just fucking the next people that got roasted on and hazed are ready to haze.
It's just human nature. Yeah. And if you play on a team, that's where sports, I think, come into play. You understand the human nature behind it. Just take your punches. If you believe in yourself, they'll come around. Part of that comes with,
confidence.
Confidence, maturity. I went to Seattle.
And longevity, sticking around. They're not going to give it up to people that just come for a couple weeks and they go, I knew that guy didn't want to fucking be serious. Look, we roasted him a few times. He got the fuck out of here, Yeah,
and also they're making fun of you. That means they like you.
Yeah.
They something about you that they like.
Doing impressions of you or whatever, or saying shit, in the back of the room during the open mics. Yeah.
You got that out of them. And the baseball stuff for me was like, they picked on me, but I also felt like it wasn't malicious. And then it just prepared me. Okay, Seattle, I went in with a baseball attitude. I'm just going to work and grind it out. And then when I went to New York, that's when the comedians were kind of tough on me. I went there and was like, who's this guy? And I already had some, not success, but I had a little small name in Seattle. And then I go to New York and it's like, I'm a bad guy. You guys are blowing me off. I go, no, I'm a good guy. Played baseball at Arizona State, well liked in Seattle. It's not me, it's you. I didn't get mad. I just kind of stuck to my guns.
Yep.
And then they came around. So that I owe to baseball. That I owe to just maybe sucking it up. Maybe I should have said
work ethic.
You.
Also from sports, you get a work ethic. You can't just go fucking run a 100-yard dash. You got to have some work ethic. You got to exercise.
It's reps. And, they say it's like 10,000 hours. It's reps. It's how dedicated do you want it? But I'll also say this. It's like, hey, I don't own a home. I'm not like in a serious, I don't have a wife and a kid. I haven't quote unquote busted through. I don't know, but I could tell people how I got to this point. I could say, hey, how I got to the point where I'm comfortable at the Comedy Store, how I got to the point where I'm getting asked to do shows in Brea. I can explain how I got, and that feels good, but it is about surviving, and you don't know. Show business is difficult. And you can get pulled into that. You can start thinking that. And
absolutely.
You don't want, but that's a reality of life, and that's a reality of where we're at. But thank God there's podcasting, and you put out positive energy, and you just like to think that good things will come back. But the world is so backwards right now. You can't say that. There's no guarantee. Not that there ever was guarantees, but I feel like right now, even like thinking good stuff, not necessarily. You really have to do the work, and that's not even a guarantee. Yeah, I hate to be a downer.
I think the key right there is you really have to do the work, and you have to realize, I'm doing the work. That's the best part about it. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm working.
Yeah, I like working. That's the thing. It's like when you're doing warm-up like I was doing, I was working. Yeah. I had a job. I had structure. I had fun. But it did take me away
from the stand-up.
From making that leap and going out on the road. I've done so much warm-up. I'm wired for that. It's almost a groove in my brain. It's a good skill. A lot
of people get trapped in the warm-up like a cruise ship. I've seen some guys do warm-up, and all of a sudden fucking 20 years goes by. And they get a couple kids, they get a mortgage, and they get a car payment, and then that warm up they can't walk away from.
Yeah, and exactly. And I don't know if I'm ever gonna get that. I don't know if I'm wired for that. But that seems like sometimes you think it wouldn't be a bad deal. But I also feel that I just got to follow my instincts. And for me to have doubts with myself right now, look, I haven't made an album. I haven't done a 1 hour special. Yeah. I don't have my website up. I don't do my podcast consistently. So for me to go, oh, well, it's not happening, or God, I do procrastinate.
Right.
I do kind of live in a fantasy Peter Pan world. I am into those kind of like not spirits, but connections and numerology, because that's the funny thing about Periscope and also on Twitter. You're able to actually document these weird moments, and people go, oh, that is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like hanging out with the Cubs and that experience, like being around baseball and being around positive energy and having that, trying to spread positive energy, go, hey, look, I'm doing that. I'm getting laughs at the Comedy Store. I'm hanging out with a successful baseball team.
Met Eddie Vedder.
But it's also turning it into a job. I like doing it, but it's also, that's why a lot of things I'll put up on Instagram is about getting work. I feel like I'm doing a show on Periscope. I'm doing a show on Twitter. I'm doing a show on Instagram. Somebody sees that. It's like, okay, Brody, we have a network. Here, let's do a half-hour show, or every once a week, or 10 minutes every day.
Yeah, like CISO,
something like
There's
that.
All these new platforms that keep coming, and eventually they all need content.
Exactly.
And you can't just have over and over and over. They try to just make the same shows over and over, and after a while, you got to go like, well, what about if we did a show where it's Brody's Periscope? This would be fucking a show, Yeah,
exactly. And I'm saying, like, give me that platform, give me my space. It's like, that's why I'm good on Periscope.
Yeah.
It's because I'm left alone. Is that how life works? I don't know. You got to work. You got to work with people. But for example, the Periscope, I'm on my own. I talk into it. I do whatever I do with it. And I've got good traction. I've gotten jobs out of it.
That's great. What kind of jobs?
Well, I did last year. I did the 2015 baseball All-Star game. They sent me to Cincinnati, Comedy Central, so I covered the parade and I did the home run hitting contest. But that was like 2 years ago. Periscope's really exploded since then.
Fuck yeah!
Then I did the Undateable Christmas.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Undateable show. I did the pre-show Periscope and during the show Periscope.
That's great.
So I did that. And that's what I'm kind of doing right now when I'm doing the Periscope. I'm kind of like creating a show. Like, here's the show.
Yeah, it really is like a an organic, a real reality show. Not a fucking scripted bullshit Kardashian stuff. It's a real Brody Stevens life. And at any minute, people have the inside to your brain and your thoughts and what you're seeing at that minute. And you're creating also. They get an insight of how you create.
Yeah, I create by just, sometimes it's walking, sometimes it's venting, sometimes it's being with somebody, sometimes it's going somewhere. So like I said, the Periscope for me, I treat it like a podcast. Like, a podcast is a podcast, stand-up is stand-up, Periscope's Periscope, but they all help each other. You know, like Rogan says podcasting is like cross-training. I also feel like I'm Periscoping is that. Yeah. And I get good feedback. Like, I'll exercise on it, and I'll do my drumming. I'll do an hour there. And then with the stand-up, because my stand-up, I'm always doing something different. I feel like I can give away a couple jokes.
Of course.
And I'm branding. They're seeing me. They see the process of what goes on before I go on stage. Then I go on stage, and then I talk to them. So I'm getting that. But the key is, not the key, but you want to be compensated. You want to somehow get it where you're making a few bucks, whether it be for a podcast or the Periscoping or giving some free comedy.
I hear you, man. I've got 300 and 74 episodes of this, and I look at it as like, wow, if say I've got over 100,000 listeners or something, if each person just gave $1, a fucking $1.
You look at it that way, right?
Yeah, $1. That would be $100,000, and I could create in this place a full-blown podcast, like entertainment studio. You know what I'm saying? But it's really wild because, and I don't do this for money. If I did, I would have been done after episode 10. But I think people they forget how much work we put into this. And they'll easily pay $7 for an espresso at Starbucks every day. But $1, you know what I mean? And it would be great if you got, let's say you've got, you said over 2 million hearts or whatever.
19 million.
What, 19 million? Wow, really? Wow, that's great.
Well,
But anyway, let's just say you had $1 for
a heart. That's 19 million bucks.
Right. Or whatever. What I'm just saying is, I think people got to understand that we're out here fucking grinding it, man, in a world where the rents are through the roof, the car insurance is crazy, the gas is fucking next level, the food, everything is just like, it costs $1 zillion to live here. And we're just fucking fighting to survive. And really what I would hope is just people come out to the shows. That's really why I do the podcast every day, to connect with the people when they come out to the shows. Like, I love your podcast. I wanted to come out and support you. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like the podcasting helps your stand-up just by talking and listening, and then also you're building up fans?
Absolutely.
I mean, I do my Periscope, or I'll do even my podcast, and people go, "Oh, Brody, you inspire me," or this, or maybe they saw my show.
I love that.
But I'm not trying to inspire.
Yeah.
I'm sharing my instincts, and hey, they're inspired by it, and then you go, okay, well, they're inspired. That's an angle where maybe I can monetize this. Not to like, ooh, I'm rubbing my, I'm going to make a lot of money off this.
Yeah, I never think that.
But
ever.
I think it can turn into motivational speaking. I kind of want to be, I like baseball, but maybe a motivational coach for baseball. I feel like there's because they have psychologists. And the thing is, I could still play baseball. I throw, I catch, I've played, I understand it. And they have psychologists. They have mental skills coaches. So that would be something that would interest me because, show business is crazy. There's some exciting things about show business, but I also like the structure and the beauty and spring training, Arizona, baseball. I like that world. But for me, that's another thing. I'm spread thin. It's like, okay, you do the baseball, but maybe stand-up suffers. And now you can't do the stand-up. Maybe your exercising suffers. Maybe that's... So it's kind of... You got to watch it also.
You do.
You spread yourself too thin, and you feel like, oh, I'll do that one Instagram. This one's gonna be.
Yeah.
And because it's all net gain. And sometimes I think that's like what Kanye West went with at the end. He was like Instagramming all these things.
Yeah.
And look, I did the same thing on Twitter. I was like tweeting. And I do think there is extra pressure just with the social media. I think the social media is just because when you were singing, that wasn't around really. And then when I started, it wasn't around. And then it came around. And it's like, wow, I got to add 2 extra hours to my day that was never there before.
You're so right. You're so right.
You used to blog. Maybe I used to send out, I had an email list. So once or twice a week, I would send out a Brody blog. I would do like...
No shit, huh?
Yeah. I had all these people.
Wow.
And I would send out like what shows I'm doing this week and a little story of what happened and the little thing and then send it out. That was before, blogs.
Yeah.
And then then my website happened. It wasn't a thing, but I had a website, and then I would blog in my website, and then Facebook and MySpace kind of came around. So I would do, I would do that, and I was cool with that. But then when the social media exploded, it was like a lot of stuff, and then you get locked into it, and then it's Facebook, and then it's iTunes, and then it's podcasts, and then you're going to Tower Records or CDs and DVDs. It was like too much.
Yeah.
It was like I almost shut down. And meaning like I can't, it's too much stuff to like digest. And then being a comedian and being so focused on that, I feel like I got to like just do my comedy. I can't really relax. It's hard sometimes for me to relax and like watch other comedians. It's like, especially now because you're like pushing and I don't know. I think that's a lot of problems is the social media. It's like you only have 24 hours in the day.
I do too. I do enjoy doing, I think out of all of them, Instagram has been my favorite because I love sharing stuff into photos because, of course, I love photos. I've always loved rock and roll photos. I've loved historic photos. I love old classic cars and motorcycle photos, all kinds of stuff. Instagram is a home run with me. I love it. And I love doing stuff like record of the day and everything. And I do know, though, when I start to get, like, there's some weeks where I do like 8 podcasts in a week to bank them up.
Right.
And because I'm going on the road or whatever, and then I'm doing Instagram and I'm tweeting and everything, and then I hit stage and it'll bite me like a motherfucker. Here comes the bad set because you were part-time in the stand-up for a minute. And it lets you know immediately when you're up there, it's like, uh-oh. And that's when I push all the other shit to the side. Immediately, I know it's a sign, and people are like, hey, you haven't done a record of the day in a while and stuff. It's like, yeah, man. Because at the end of the day, all I want to do is the stand-up. Yeah. I do all the other stuff to put asses in the seats. Once you get people coming, then I could just podcast and do stand-up. You know what I mean?
But what about if you're just, I'm podcasting.
Yeah.
I'm doing and not think about gaining new fans and gaining, and more of like, not saying you don't do the podcast because you like doing the podcast.
I do love it.
And not saying you do record of the week because you don't like doing it. I'm saying do that for doing that and the fans come. I feel like, yeah, I like to get fans, but I also feel like if I continue to be me, do me, they'll come. The fans will come. That's my approach as opposed to like, I got to have, I'm not saying you do it, like, I need fans in the seat to make money. I mean, you do have to get fans.
It's never about the money to me, ever.
Well, we want to survive.
Right,
we want to pay our bills.
Right, yeah. It's never about the money. It's just about going to a strange town, when people tweet at you over and over, when are you coming to Chicago?
Yep.
When are you coming to Oklahoma? When are you coming to Seattle or whatever?
When I get enough fans.
Exactly. And let me tell you, when you have enough fans, the phone rings off the hook because the clubs definitely want to make that money. So to me, it's never about the money. It's about being able to go out on the road and work because I love doing this. So if there's nobody there, I can't do it. And that's the problem. It's never about, man, I could sell out and I'll start making money or whatever. This apartment I got right here is fine. And those records, I don't need anything. I don't need a fucking crazy car and a mansion on the hill. I just need people out there so I can fucking do the gig, do the thing I love.
Aren't there gigs that already have like kind of a built-in crowd, and then you go there and maybe a quarter of them are your crowd?
There are in LA.
And then you like start building that up.
There are in LA and New York, yeah, for sure. But I'm saying when you go to those mystery towns, like let's say Edmonton.
Okay.
And you're going, maybe 50 people in Edmonton know me and the rest is papered room. And now you're battling.
Right. I understand.
Yeah, that kind of stuff,
But that's also part of like building up your fans too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I always say. Picking them off one at a time, like 5 people that didn't know you liked you. But what I'm talking about is not being able to be booked again, where they go, well, you didn't draw anybody. You know what I mean?
But
that's my fear.
Well, it's kind of out of your control a little bit. It's like you got to be. I just feel like be funny, be positive, put the energy out, be the best you can be. And maybe being the best you can be is not going to be theaters. It might be something right there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to I
love belly room size. If I could do belly room size across America, man, the electricity of those shows are undeniable.
Right.
Or even OR with 189 sold out. Man, that is fucking... The OR, when it is sold out and rocking, there ain't nothing feels like that.
That's your feeling. Like when I do it,
yeah,
I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
I feel like I got to get through this.
Yeah.
And I hope they like me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, let's say I'm at a rock club and I got 100, hipster kids from Los Feliz or whatever. I can dig into them. Like I know I'm going to make them like me.
Yeah.
Because they're hipster, they're rock and roll. Whereas like at the Comedy Store, you got families and tourists. I can't make them like me. There's more finesse involved.
Well, I'm not looking for them all to like me. I like the energy of the push and pull and the oohs and the ahs and the big laughs over here, but nothing over here. I love that weirdness.
Right.
I love that.
No, I like it. I mean, that's why I like doing the late night, the main room.
Yeah.
When it's broken down, when the room is broken, like give me a broken room and let me patch them together.
Yeah.
And then I'm relaxed and then I can rattle off. I'm just more relaxed. And I think it's also, if I was forced, like Brody, every week for, you're going to get 3 spots, primetime spots, I could get used to it. Just like I'm used to doing warm-up in front of big crowds. At the Improv, actually, I feel pretty comfortable in there. For some reason, maybe it's because where I started at the Comedy Store, that room, could, psychologically in my head.
Yeah.
Where it makes it not always fun. It makes it more of like, I hope I do well.
Right.
So I do have that. Whereas the Improv, I feel like I can handle that. I got it. I get it.
Well, you don't put it up on a mantle. You know what I mean? Like the store, we look at it as like, it's the top fucking.
It is.
It's the top notch, and you want to do.
And the audiences know that too. Yeah. They know, hey, we're at the Comedy Store. You better bring it. They
see the fucking names coming in. David Letterman, Eddie Murphy, fucking Jim Carrey, Louis C.K.
So you got to bring it. I feel. I don't worry about. I'm not a huge draw, so I don't worry about. Am I getting the numbers? I kind of like. That's out of my control. I can promote and do that.
Right.
But I do, at the there's times at the comedy store you want to do well. You got Adam in the back, the booker. It's like, I want to get laughs. You don't want to bomb.
Yep.
So I don't think bombing, but I think about, I'm going to do well.
Yeah.
I'm going to push through. And there's been times where they've given me some like prime, I got a couple prime main room spots. And one time I struggled. I didn't have fun, but they liked it. And the other time I like stayed in the pocket, nailed it. So I proved to myself I could do that. And I think part of it is just getting the spot. If you're lucky enough to get the spots, get good, grow, and
you got to grow. I think that's a big, big thing, because if you just sit there do the same thing over the years and you're not growing, then what are you doing? You know what I mean?
You got to grow, and you got to get that album out. I don't have an album.
Yeah.
I don't have that special. So it's like, keep doing the same stuff. It's like you get sick of it. I want to get it out. I want to be a comedian. I want to go for it. I want a podcast. I'm in the same boat too. We talk about money and all that stuff. And
yeah, because you walked away from the audience warm up, right? I mean, Chris's show.
Yeah, I was doing At Midnight.
Right.
I did the first couple years there, and look, it paid pretty good. Paid pretty good every day.
Yeah,
it went fairly quick. I got a lot of crowd work interaction, but it wasn't fun. I was rushed, and the crowds, the paid audience, which were a lot, they were becoming a little more belligerent, a little more not into it.
Yeah.
Eating. The paid audience, not
these audiences, let people know, some of these shows, they shoot them every day or whatever. They don't have enough people every day.
Correct.
So they hire people to come sit in the crowd.
Yeah, all shows, pretty much 95% of shows use seat fillers.
Right. And then after a while, these people don't give a fuck what's going on. They start just texting and sleeping and sleeping,
eating. And I'm going, you're here for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're eating. I mean, you go to shows every day. You know that. Why do you come in here with food? Nobody else does. You do. That's what I was kind of dealing with. And then I'd see healthy guys just slouching, not bringing energy. And I'd have to bring the energy. And it was like, I've done so many shows. I know what energy is. I know what a good crowd is.
Yeah.
And there's no excuse really for not clapping. And because I could do it on my own. I could clap and fill the whole studio on my own.
It's amazing that the audience person doesn't come up and go, Brody, point out the piece of shits in here and let's fire them and fucking seat them with fresh people.
I could say, I would say that. I remember. Why don't you guys just leave? I'll do it with half the people.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do it like that. And, you start running into some problems when you start taking chances to make the show better, like speaking up. Sometimes you got to play good cop, bad cop. And, you'd say something, then Chris or something.
They'd be like, just stick to your audience.
Or they go, I think the crowd's okay. And it's like, they're not okay. But he can't rip the crowd. Yeah. I could.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, every show I did, I'm about the show. I was always about the show. My 3,000 shows, it was about the show.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you'll run into problems like that. I worked at, the last show, I got fired. They said that because of an audience member complained. These guys you're telling me you're going to take the side of an audience member who's drugged up and said I was too aggressive? Get them out of here.
Yeah.
I care about the show. This guy doesn't. So they had a complaint by somebody. In fact, I'd worked like the first 4 shows, and I was doing well. And they liked it. They even said, like, we like what you're doing. Everyone loves it. And I did it again, and then I got fired. Right. And I got fired over something like crap, like over a paid audience member complaining. And then one guy said, I just don't think you didn't look me in the eye. It's like, I'm warming up the crowd. I've done 3,000 shows.
Yeah.
But I could also see that, maybe I'm growing out of it. I'm growing out of it, and I'm being a little too
maybe you
much.
want to be out of there. You know what I mean?
But I liked it. I liked being around the energy of it, and I liked having a couple bucks, but I also knew that, for example, when I was doing At Midnight on Wednesdays, I got a gig on Fox Sports with David Spade and Jerry Ferrara, this fantasy football show.
That's cool.
So I would do that. It was like on Wednesday mornings or whatever it was, and I got paid like twice as much, no pressure.
Yeah.
And treated well, and on TV.
Treated like an artist instead of just the. Sometimes I think the audience warm-up person is just looked at as like, who cares? Let's just get, that guy's just, wrangler,
Yeah, well, when you're an audience warm-up, you're like crew and talent. It's a little bit of both.
Absolutely.
But I'll tell you, it's like, not to knock at midnight, but I feel like when I worked at Chelsea and I worked at Best Damn Sports Show, I pushed these guys. And if you look at Best Damn Sports Show, a lot of people came out of there. They're still working. They're doing things. Michael Strahan's on Good Morning America. Jalen Rose is on ESPN. Stephen A. Smith is on ESPN. Mike Goldberg does UFC. Chris Rose is still doing stuff. We had Jeff Dunham on when he was down. We had, there's a bunch of guys. Kevin Millar, who's huge on them. So a lot of guys came through there, and I knew I took care of them. That's why they gave me energy. It felt good to know that Michael Irvin and Pete Rose and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar appreciated me being there, taking care of them. And I put that same energy when I went to Chelsea. So when I hear TJ Miller tell me and say good things about me in articles, like I watch Brody's videos, Brody made Chelsea show experience good. I knew that. I felt that. And I tried to do that same thing at midnight, and I was kind of not able to. It was like they weren't into it, or didn't matter. So I look at midnight, it's like, hey, it's popular on hashtags, but they're really, to me, I don't see anybody breaking out from that show. There's no stars breaking out. It's just kind of, let's do the show, get them in, get them out. But I felt like when I was at Chelsea, I could connect them more. And I felt like at midnight, it was leaving frustrated. And plus, it was a lot of paid audience that didn't help. So, but I grew out of it, but I was just yelling. And, it's a little daunting being on your own, because I grew up, to be a comedian, you have to be confident. You go, they're here to see me. I'm doing this. I'm going to sell out 6 shows at Ontario and feel great. I don't necessarily have that drive. I kind of like being that's why I like Periscope. That's why I like podcasting. That's why I like maybe hosting or being a part of an ensemble somehow. But
I kind of think that Brody and Friends thing could be something good for you. You know what I mean? Because you necessarily don't like to go on the road, I think, because I don't see you on the road a lot. But imagine if you could go on the road with, let's say, me, Randolph, and a couple other guys, and we sold it as a package.
That's what I'm saying. Make it happen, Dean.
Just a fucking...
We'll go to Phoenix.
All over, yeah. Just a zoo. You know what I mean?
Well,
I think that's an interesting thing to go see, too. All right, we're going to go see this...
Three rockers.
This craziness. You know what I mean?
Yeah, high energy, fun, guys who get it. Some music, some interaction, some jokes, some familiarity from podcasts and Periscope. That's the thing. I can do that, but I also need somebody to help me take action. And that's where I have some of my problems, if you want to look at it that way, is that I grew up here in the Valley. I played baseball. I've done all the warm-ups. I've done the late night crazy gigs. So I feel that I'm not a normal guy, in a sense that if I have a show idea, or maybe an idea for going on a tour, or an idea about some kind of professional thing, I need help. So for somebody to go to me, well, you got to put it down on paper, and then we'll pitch it and see what they say, and then go here. It feels like it's too much for me.
Yeah, you can't do the standard pitching with Brody Stevens.
Right. I need somebody, I'm maybe talking about my manager,
It's kind of like a good A&R guy back in the day with rock and roll bands. Rock and roll bands are absolute lunatics. To have them come into a corporate meeting and sit there and they go, well, tell us what your plans are when you get into the studio. Are you going to write a hit? That doesn't happen. You got an A&R guy who he sees the lunacy of the band. He sees the drug use, the fucking insane rock shows, the fucking the fire between the singer and the guitar player, the fights or whatever. And then he goes back and he sells it to the suits. He goes, look, man, these guys are going to be fucking huge. And they keep the artist away from the money guys.
That's what I need.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
exactly.
and that's kind of what I do with the Periscope and I'm doing with my comedy. It's like, you see, and even with the Cubs, the baseball, the access that I get with the Cubs, that's a show.
Yeah, it is.
You know, that's a show. If somebody would say, hey, Brody, Comedy Central Sports, Funny or Die Sports, maybe something.
Even ESPN. Because it can't be the same thing all the time on ESPN.
Right. I don't really want to work for ESPN, but I would do more. I'm more loyal to Fox Sports just because I've been
whatever.
there.
I'm saying
I know.
A sports network where you go like, I mean, you know. when you
let me freestyle.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. I know every comedian, and I know a lot of actors.
They all do guests on it.
I know every comedian, the hot comedians, the big comedians, the Dean Del Reys,
the Chris D'Elias,
the Bobby Lees, the whoever, the Joe Rogans. And then I know enough athletes that I can have them on too. And I feel like I can get some kind of show where I have athletes talking about comedy and comedians talking about sports. And I know them both. So you're going to get that. Yeah, and they'll probably end up turning on me, like make fun of Brody. But I want to have it be like a cable access, late night thing. And so that's one idea I have. Another idea is like bullpens with Brody, where you send me off and I go to spring training. Yeah. And I know enough baseball players, like all I needed would be 10 to do 10 episodes of maybe me working out with the pitcher, showing how we do the mechanics and do that. But that's what I see in my head. It's just a matter of executing it and getting the help to do it. Because the show I did, the Enjoy It, the 2 seasons. Yeah. I came up with that in my head.
That's a great show.
Thank you very much. I came up, it was very difficult for me to do, and that's a whole nother podcast, another chapter.
Totally.
And I kind of want to move away from that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. You're in a better headspace now than you were during that era.
I'm better headspace, but it was almost like a birthing, because when my issues of me, I lowered my Lexapro because I went to Ireland and I wanted to drink a little bit. Yeah. And I knew that I had a show. So it was like, okay, I got a show coming up. I'm going to London. I'm going to Dublin. Then I'm doing Montreal. I want to have fun. And I had, agents and people going, you got to party, you to celebrate. So I'm going, okay, I'll do it. And I kind of knew that because I wasn't doing warm-up. I left Chelsea before that. And I go, okay, it's my big chance to go for it. And I'm going to have fun. And I went to Ireland. I had fun. I was there with like Tim and Eric and Reggie Watts and Tig and Nick Thune and had good shows. I'd never been to Europe or Ireland before.
That's cool.
But I wanted to drink some beer, so I lowered I read before, like, hey, if I want to drink one night, I won't take my Lexapro. I read that somewhere. Yeah. Okay, maybe a mistake. So, so that's what I did. And then when
you can't drink on Lexapro? I don't know.
It can exasperate alcohol, like, make you nauseous with 2 beers as opposed to drinking.
Can you smoke weed on it and stuff?
You can. I don't think it's recommended.
Are you still on that stuff?
Weed?
No, Lexapro.
Well, I recently went back on. I kind of I did actually. I've kept my Lamictal. The thing what I did that I added, people don't realize you should have a mood stabilizer. You should have something. If you're taking Lexapro or an antidepressant, you should have a mood stabilizer as a backup. And that all that does is like keep you from going too high or too low.
Wow.
And maybe if you have some problem with your Lexapro, maybe you make a mistake and go, hey,
it's like Levelator on the podcast thing. It keeps everything level.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's, for me, Lamictal is just it's epilepsy medication. That's all it is, but it's used for like bipolar maintenance. It's a mood stabilizer. I don't feel it, but I know a lot of people take it and they feel like it calms them down a little bit. So I wasn't taking
I think
that.
You're more focused now. Like when I talk to you in the hall, you know what I mean? It's like
lately?
Yeah, big time.
Lexapro.
Yeah, I noticed it.
3 days.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it started like 2 days ago when we were having that conversation in the hall.
Well, I also know that I need to like crank it up and tighten. I mean, I went hard, I would say, the last 2 years with the Periscope, because the Periscope for me started when I had these problems with the Oddball tour. You know, I did the Oddball tour. I did the first 2 years. I did like 40 shows.
Let's talk about that. You're out hosting the Oddball tour, and you felt like maybe they took a little advantage of you.
Yes.
And how does that come about, the feeling?
Well, first of all, I love doing it. They let me host the second stage the first year. I did that.
It was great.
Yeah, it was awesome. I did it. Big
what a
crowds,
great festival.
Afternoons, and then the main show. And I think I hosted one the first year in Vegas. Jeff Ross hosted most of them. And then the second year, they asked me to come back, second stage, gave me a few more bucks. And then they asked me to host, like after the first or second show, they said, Brody, you want to host the main stage? I said, yeah. So I hosted the main stage. And then I hosted it again. And then I was basically hosting it when Jeff wasn't there. So I hosted like half of them.
Right.
And I did pretty good. I would say I had, out of 10, 8 were good, 2 were bad. So, I mean, because it's a whole different animal, especially when you're doing an hour and a half outside, bringing it, and now you come inside to the big theater and it's like half full. Did they see you already? It's still daylight. So, but I was okay at it. But at the end of the tour, it's like I wasn't compensated for it. And I talked to my managers and agents. I go, am I going to get, because I said yes. What are you going to say? No, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
You'll do it. And I would bring up Louis C.K., Aziz, Gaffigan, Chris Hardwick, Chris D'Elia, Brent Morin, whoever was on the show, Sarah Silverman. I brought them all out, did a good job, and then I would say, like, am I going to get paid to my agent and manager? And I'm not going to put it on them. I don't want to, like, cause any problems. But it just didn't happen. It didn't happen, and it bothered me, you know, just because I remember it was like I went to Scottsdale, Arizona, and I went with another comedian who got me the gig. It was a corporate gig, and he was basically saying, "Oh, I'm just doing this. It's no big deal. It's like nothing." And it was like a decent gig. It was like, "Wow, I would do it," and I was doing it, but I was like opening for him. So did the show, and it's like he was all right, did all right, and I did good, and I was thinking like, I should be. I remember I was there and I talked to somebody about what happened to me, like how the Oddball thing was.
Right.
And she like got me fired up. They shouldn't be doing that. That's bull crap. You know, you should be speaking up for something like that. And then on top of the guy going, "Oh, it's no big deal. I'm getting $1,000." And I'm going, God, I didn't get anything.
Yeah.
So it like set me off, and then everyone's saying like, so-and-so's so great. This guy's great. And Brody, why are you so edgy? And I go, why am I edgy? You know, this guy's great, but who's doing the warm-up? Who's brought him out? Who's doing this? I was at every show. Nobody's talking about me. I'm at every show, and I didn't get paid one nickel. So I kind of like went off a little bit on Twitter. Maybe I shouldn't have done it. But because now I felt like I wasn't going to be in the next Oddball season, at least at that point or ever. And I felt like, oh, that's 20,000 people a show that aren't going to see me, and times 10, that's 200,000. And I just felt like, you know what? I can do Periscope because that just started and build up my own crowd. And that kind of like got my Periscope started.
Got you driven. Was there backlash from the Oddball thing?
Well,
because that's a big thing, right? That's Live Nation.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I think one of my agents said, yeah, they didn't like it. And then another guy said, that doesn't matter. But I was mad at myself for doing that. I mean, I got positive. I mean, Joe Rogan appreciated it, like that I stuck up for myself, and a couple other people, like it wasn't cool. But I'm not that guy. But when I did go on Twitter and say that, I was triggered by, oh, everyone's great. This guy's great. You're great, Brody. Why are you so like that? And I go, you know why? Because of that. So that got that going, and that didn't feel good. I was kind of mad at myself for doing that, but I also felt like I guess I was right. I don't know. And I didn't get the third season of Oddball, and I didn't get the fourth season or whatever they did. I don't know how many they've done now. So I didn't get them. And I do think like I'll never do a Live Nation thing. I probably upset the guy who ran it, Jeff Wills. I didn't mean to. And so, yeah, I have some issues like that with yelling at people, maybe, or like snapping on Twitter. But yeah, I mean, I did when I was on Twitter, that when I was having my issues originally, I was like letting people know who are like not cool to me. Like, you were not cool to me, but now I'm working. So I just want to let you know that you weren't cool to me.
It's an interesting business, right? Because it's a business where people can do a lot of stuff to you, and you're not really allowed to talk about it, or you're looked at as a problem. This guy's going to be, he's going to be a problem.
They're sensitive.
They are.
That's why I don't talk to anybody from my show, really, because they got sensitive. I'm passionate, and it's like it's not personal. But they can't take it. They're not like, when you play sports, you get yelled at.
Yeah.
You fucking suck.
Yeah.
What the hell are you thinking out there? God,
Yeah.
You do that in comedy? Oh, he's a weirdo. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And
can't have any Coach Grudens in comedy.
No.
All right.
But it's about the show. And I had, to be honest with you, I had a couple like probably bad experiences through making my TV show because of those. It's like when I went on Comedy Central, it's about being comedy.
Yeah.
And I felt like the comedy that I was doing, they weren't, the people making the show with me, they weren't updated with it.
Right.
Since the HBO show, my comedy grew. And I felt like, and it's on Comedy Central, I need to have some comedy input. So there were things that were coming out on that special. I saw the series. I go, no, that's not what I do, and I don't want that. So I had some issues with that, and they had, I pushed. I felt like I'm going to push. This is my opportunity. I got to make this thing. And I utilized my friends, Tana from Seattle. I utilized, Zach as much as I could. He was there here and there, but it was a lot of stuff. And I feel like it took me a couple years to lick my wounds, and there's things that I did that's why I like Periscope.
Yeah.
That's why I like podcasting. Even though I was doing podcasting before the show, is because it's just the freedom.
Yep.
And not saying it was all a bad experience. They did give me freedom. There were just a few things that were some tension, and I feel like it did strain relationships. And I also feel like maybe over the years, me yelling at people probably strained relationships and maybe burnt bridges. Possibly. But I also feel it was always about the job. It wasn't like, I'm yelling at you because you treated me bad. It was about the job.
Yeah.
And so that bothers me sometimes because it is a business. And I think like, am I going to be like my dad yelling at everything? And I don't want to. So sometimes I have regrets. I feel like I had some opportunities and maybe I let them go away. But that's not a healthy way to think. But the other thing is, I'm kind of glad I went through it. I birthed it. I mean, I had a billboard. I had a show. I had to do, media or whatever. And I made it through. I did it. So I kind of birthed it. Am I going to get another shot? I don't know. But I also felt like it did make me official in the comedy world. Like comedians I know like me and that sort of thing.
Yeah, they respect you for sure.
And I'm not saying I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm a legend. I don't.
Well, you've been in the game forever, and you're 100% pure. You're an artist. You remind me a lot of Ari Shaffir in a way of like you're not the
Jewish.
Yeah. No, but you're not the classic. You, Ari, Diaz. These aren't guys that Comedy Central set out to give shows to.
No.
Because we're
off center.
Yeah, exactly. So through all of the, it reminds me of that Twisted Sister documentary I watched. Through all the no's, you keep going and you say, I'm not doing it just for you. I'm doing this for me. So eventually you could say no all you want. I'm not going away.
I mean, I'd like to look. Yeah. That sounds great. And I do believe that.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see how I feel like when money runs low, we'll see. I've been lucky to work. And then I have those regrets. I feel like, oh, did I waste money back then? Should I have been tighter with that? And now it's coming back where I got to.
Yeah, you can't look at it.
And then
I think when the fucking gun is pointed at your head.
Jesus.
No, but this is how I am all the time. Like some people go like, man, you don't think about the future. You just, you get some money and you buy a jacket or whatever. And it's like.
Helps your comedy.
Yeah. And to me, I'm like, I don't know what I would do if I had $1 million. I don't think I would have the drive. I need that fucking survival mode.
Yeah, I can see that.
Survival mode. That makes me fucking buckle down and do 900 podcasts in a week and
I agree.
And write jokes and do spots at 2 a.m.
Okay, so you have that, and then what happens? Let's say something happens. You get on. You feel like you may, when you make a few bucks, you might like take the fire away.
I don't know, and that's always a fear. Maybe I don't take the auditions serious enough because I'm like, well, this might be $32,000 a week.
But it's like loving. Look, Louis C.K. was there last night. He's a multimillionaire, so you're always gonna hopefully. I
get it. I think you're
gonna have that fire.
I think you might get another hunger of like, okay, I want to be. I want to beat my last special. I can get into that stuff. You know what I mean? Okay, I want the third special to be fucking smoking or whatever. Then it becomes a thing of beat the last thing you did or whatever, or be as like the best at what you can be.
No, and look, I agree. Like the grinding it out, but I also feel that there's like, you know what? Take that year and just chill. Yeah. Let that work speak. Let it marinate a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like I'm saying, like I went when I got out of warm up, I went hard. Periscope, baseball, because the Cubs are popular.
Yeah.
I feel like that's another thing. Like they accepted me. They're a winning team. You're seeing me in the dugout.
That's fucking cool.
And it's like
you were at the World Series.
Yeah, I got to go to that.
Yeah, you were on that fucking double-decker bus with the trophy.
I was in the parade. Yeah, I held the trophy. I got to get the photo of it.
Did you get to talk to Eddie Vedder a lot, or what was it?
Well, I spoke to Eddie Vedder briefly when I met him during the regular season.
Right.
I always wanted to meet him. It was like kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, fuck yeah, Seattle, and you know.
Yeah. And they said, he comes around. He's just like a regular guy. He'll come around here and there during the regular season too. And then I was out there.
He's a big Cubs fan.
Loves the Cubs.
I know, but do you know why? Because he's from San Diego, and then he moved to Seattle.
I think he was born in Chicago, and I don't know if he was born in Chicago, but I think he spent a lot of time in Chicago as a kid, and he was just raised.
Yeah, I was wondering that. I could easily Google it, but because I was like, that's crazy,
Yeah, he was raised. I think his family, and I think he spent time there. But I know he's a huge Cubs fan, and
and of course you got fucking
Bill Murray.
And
Vince Vaughn, Jeff Garland,
Rage Against the Machine, Tom Morello. Yeah.
So there's a lot of big Cub fans over the years. So I always wanted to meet Eddie Vedder, and I knew he was friends with the Cubs. So they said, one day, because Pearl Jam was going to play a concert in a couple days at Wrigley Field. Yeah. And they say, I think Eddie Vedder's going to come down. I go, I want to get a photo with him.
Yeah.
So I have my pass. I can kind of go wherever I want.
Yeah.
And they said he was here going to sing something, and then I saw him out by the dugout like half hour before the game. So I went down there.
Yeah.
And I asked Steve, he's the camera guy, can you get a photo? So he got a photo with me, and I talked to Eddie for a second. I just said like I was in Seattle, and I do comedy, and I said something about Jeff Ross, and he goes, I'm friends. I'm doing a show with Jeff Ross. I said that.
Yeah.
So he was cool. I took a photo with him, just like a regular guy.
Yeah.
And then during the World Series, he was around, but to be honest, I was so locked in to the Cubs.
Yeah.
My friend's a coach who I grew up with. He's a high-end, in the dugout, strategy, catchers, pitcher coach. He's the one who asked me to come out, and he's the one who gives me the access and the okay to do everything.
Now, what is it? What do they have you out there for? A little comic relief? A little bit of fucking
a little bit off? A little bit,
Are you just rolling up to guys going, yes, push and believe, fastball, knuckles, and that stuff?
Sometimes.
That's hilarious.
With some of the guys, the Cubs, the particular, I could tell you how I how these gigs led up to these gigs.
Yeah.
But this particular Cub one was from Anthony Rizzo. He's their first baseman. A couple of years ago, he said, "You want to host my laugh off?" Because I was hanging out with the Cubs. My friend's a coach. I'd go to spring training. I'd go to Wrigley Field. I'd go on a road to see him on the road somewhere. And then I did a Marucci bat. They're baseball bats. Almost all the players use them.
Of course, I know that company.
Yeah, and I did their award show. So Rizzo saw me there. So he had already seen me do a little comedy. So he said, "You want to host my thing?" I said, "Yeah." So it was during the Cubs convention. It's a big event in January. So they flew me out, and Tom Papa was the headliner.
Wow.
And they had like a Second City sketch thing, and I hosted.
Sick.
And I the owner's there, and the new manager, and I knew it was my opportunity to really hit home with my baseball and my comedy. So I kind of played to Joe Madden, the manager, knowing, because he's the guy.
Yeah.
If I'm saying information that only he gets, it's funny. So I knew that baseball connection. He liked it. The owner liked it. He said, "Are you going to come down to spring training, Tom Ricketts?" So now I'm in with all these guys.
Sick.
And then you're there.
Are they giving you a hotel and shit?
Yeah, for the convention.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got that.
So they flew me out there, convention. Forget if they even paid me for that one, but they gave me everything. And you're hanging out with the team, because my friend's a coach. And he said, "Okay, there's dinner at this." And then I'm there with all the players, the coaches, the owner. And so then they're having the events. I'm hanging out, periscoping, which was last year. And then they brought me back out. So they did it again last year. And again, getting more in, come down to spring training. And my goal this year for spring training was to throw a bullpen. Practice, because I work out with my friend who's the coach, Brizzello. Right. So I want to throw a bullpen. They all want me to. And so then, they said, come throw a bullpen tomorrow at 11 in Arizona. So they give me, you go to Otis, he'll give you a uniform. So I went to the guy, gave me a uniform, and then I warmed up with Contreras, their starting catcher, and then one of the AAA guys caught me, but I'm throwing there with the major leaguers.
Wow.
John Lackey, another Cahill, and then me, and I got Chris Bosio, the pitching coach, and it's on video.
Yeah.
But you know what? I pitched in college.
Can you throw curves and knuckleballs?
Curveball.
What's your...
fastball's my best pitch.
Fastball. Now, how do you throw a curve? I can throw a knuckle, kind of, Like, I used to practice it a lot. Like, man, it's so cool to throw the knuckle, like the Candiotti style. Candiotti would just fuck dudes up with that knuckle.
Yeah, all over the place.
It would come, and I remember I used to sit in section 115 at Pac Bell, and I think it was the last year... Candiotti pitched for the Giants. You remember that?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, here he is, this Dodger who killed the Giants year after year, and now he's on a team. I sat back there, and I would see it come. It would just be like, it almost was
dancing.
It was like you're on mushrooms. It was like, what's going on with that? I don't know how.
It's crazy. Yeah. Like, it's hard to catch.
And hard to hit, too, man.
I could never do a knuckleball. Guys would always want to throw a knuckleball.
Yeah.
I just... I was good at the fastball because I pitched with passion. I was able to blow the guys away.
Yeah.
And then the curveball is basically, hold it a little different. And I'm thinking like fastball. And then when I get around my ear, I go curveball.
Wow.
So I can get it to drop pretty good.
Is it a different, are you holding the seams different or what?
Yeah. Holding the seams a little different.
Two-finger curve?
And it's just...
got a three-finger?
No, it's all like two-finger, and it's like you're just thinking fastball, then right when I get to my ear, kind of bring it in, and it's like pulling down, and it's like...
Wow. Just drops out the bottom of it. Like
you hope.
Sinkers and shit, man, are just crazy. Pitching is such a fucking... an art, man.
I love pitching because you read... You're reading the hitters.
When you see Lincecum in his height, watching that guy pitch in his fucking giant body and his wacky fucking wind up.
Well, he had a small, but he was small.
Yeah,
he was tiny, but he had that crazy stride. He was only like 5'9", because he
just seemed big because the way he came down
and the long hair.
Yeah, but
man, he threw hard.
His pitching was fucking crazy. Over the years, all these pitchers, it's so wild to learn that. You think all the way back to that fucking dad and third grade going, no, you're fucking Gary, just somebody on him.
Well, it's different now with the training. That's the thing. I know a lot of these pitching gurus. That's something that I may want to get into. That's where the positive energy comes from. You know, they need somebody to talk to. Yeah, you're good. You got it. Just, I'm with you out there. There's sometimes they just need that.
Yeah.
But there's so many training skills now. Long toss, the tubing, the J bands, a lot of these, see, it's mental. It all comes from there's only just a handful. It's mental. And it's visualizing, it's quieting the brain, it's believing. And then with pitching, it's long toss, it's all these drills, it's weighted balls. That's why these guys all throw 100 now.
Yeah.
They all throw 100.
Yeah.
And then they have all the stats. So you get a guy like Borzello with the Cubs.
Yeah, they just look at the stats and go, this guy cannot hit a curveball.
Exactly.
Right.
So they go, okay, this guy right here, the count's 0-0, he will not swing at a curveball. If you can throw a curveball for a strike, it's going to be 0-1.
Right.
And stats show.
Now, the catcher has to memorize those stats so he can give the guy the signal, right?
Exactly. And so before the games, and that's what I would see with the Cubs, Borzello, my friend, he'd be sitting there with the catcher, starting catcher, going over the hitters.
Right.
We're going over this guy. We're going over this guy. Then he would also do with the pitcher, too.
Right. Now, is the coach, that guy, giving the sign to the catcher? The catcher's giving the sign to the pitcher, or is the catcher memorizing the lineup?
It's up to the catcher. I mean, they may have something, who knows? But it's up to the catcher calls the game.
Yeah, gotcha.
But some teams, some of the coaches will, suggest things possibly. But when you have a catcher, maybe a Dominican kid, he's dealing with a guy from Texas, a guy from Louisiana, a guy from California. You've got to pull out the information, communicate the information, and then execute the information. And I see that, and it was coming from a guy like me, my friend.
Yep.
We grew up together with blue-collar, hard-working values that I applied to warm-up, that I apply to stand-up. A lot of my stuff comes from, growing up in the 80s. And I feel like when I saw the Cubs win, I felt like it took some kind of toughness, a blue-collar work ethic, and then also just believing.
Right.
When I talk about this push and believe, it's like you've got the stats and you're dedicated. It's all like Borzello, his life is baseball. It's just baseball. He's always been baseball. It's not other stuff. And
right.
I saw him go from being a bullpen catcher with the Yankees and turning it into an impact position where they relied on him. Just like my warm-up. Like I was into warm-up, but then I made it something. And now I'm trying to make this late night spot something. But a lot of it's just energy, belief, street smarts, lucky enough to have good parenting and good coaches. And I saw winning in New York. I saw it, and it's just it was a confidence. And but I try to apply that in. With this crazy election, how there's so much negativity. Baseball's about positive.
Totally.
Baseball's about lifting up your teammate. You struck out. It's okay. I'm going to get on and get a hit for you.
Right.
So, and I saw that. Whereas, show business, it's
singular.
It's subjective. Oh, are you funny? Okay. Do I like you? Okay. Do you win this award?
Yeah.
You have rate. I mean, you have.
It's gatekeepers, right?
Gatekeepers. And I mean, the only thing I think is like numbers and, ticket sales and ratings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sports is about winning.
Yeah.
It's black and white winning. So I grew up kind of in that world of the winning, and it's almost not cool to have a winning attitude in Hollywood. Sometimes you get pushback.
Yeah,
and
I get that. It's a lot of. You got to kind of sometimes be what do they call, like almost like a pushover. You know what I mean? Like, oh well,
Yeah, don't make waves.
Don't
but
make
it's like,
waves.
Here's my thing. I grew up in the Valley. San Fernando Valley. People always picked on the Valley. I went to Reseda High School. That even more so. And I just saw over time that I'm working on TV shows that the Valley is so bad. Why am I on TV shows? Why am I doing Largo, these hipster rooms? Meaning, like, just because they put down the Valley, I infiltrated that world. So what I said is, like, I have my good energy infiltrated the if you want to call it negative. I mean, I think it's kind of negative now, but I like to say that and be positive. And I also felt like the Cubs winning, being around that, it was such a good story. It like validated some of my positive energy in a weird way. I don't want to feel like, I had something to do with the Cubs.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. Well, the more positive vibes around something, a circle of people, the better people are going to feel. You ever been in a bus ride somewhere and you got a couple shitty people in the bus, all of a sudden the whole bus feels shitty?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, man, you got a bunch of Charlie Browns all of a sudden, you know?
You got to put out, it's just it's not easy.
I know. And you know how I always look at it as like, you know, fuck, man, we're alive. We're grown-ass adults, and we're working in the hottest club in America. There's no negative there. It's all great.
And you know what? I look at it these days because I feel like comedians, we are the export. We're like the number one export right now. I feel like audiences need to take care of the artists, the comedians, the voices, the court gestures, you know? I know that, you know, our military people aren't, I don't want to compare us to soldiers at all, but I also just feel like comedians are important. That's why audiences, they are important. I feel like artists, they serve a purpose. And so I feel like when we're doing comedy, we are a voice for people, number one. And I also think there's something about laughing, people feeling good. You know, we're so in the eye of the storm. We're in LA. We're cranking these things out. But you know what? There's thousands of people outside that have regular jobs who who do rely on us.
Yeah, they need us, man. After that shit week at work, they got a couple drinks, and they bring their lady, and we come on, and they go home, and they feel better. They feel better, man.
And it's like, it feels good.
This podcast right here makes people feel better. I get emails every day. Dude, I got a shit job. I listen to this on the way to work, and I feel good, man. And that makes me feel fucking great.
Yeah, it does. And I also feel like whenever I think about not doing comedy, I could do a regular job. You have to think like it would be unfair. Like people think I'm funny, whether I think I'm funny or not, or I talk with a funny voice, or I act weird. So I feel like I almost owe it to the world. Again, I don't want to. I feel like I'm coming off like some Jesus character.
I get what you're saying, though, man.
But it would be I know it would be just. I know I'm doing the right thing, being in entertainment. Thank gosh, there's a place for us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well,
good conversation. Wow.
Yeah, man. Thanks for doing the podcast, dude. It's so great to have you on, and let's not make it another 4 years, you know?
Oh, 4 years? What are the Olympics?
Isn't that great? And
Foreigner number 4 right there.
Foreigner number 4 right there. Today's episode is all about fours.
4, like one. That's counting with drums. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 and foreskin.
For those about to rock.
There you go.
4th of July, rockets and cannons.
I love it. Starting pitchers. You used to have 4 starting pitchers.
Yeah.
4 guys. I don't know.
Thank you so much, dude. And follow Brody on Instagram.
Brody is me friend, based off Tony and Mr. Lee, my busboys in New York. Brody Yuga guy, you me friend. I enjoy that. And I also, the Cubs thing, I'm trying to link it together. Again, I'm not the reason why. But again, I saw that when you hear them talking like you a little bit, like your little cadences, you know you have an influence. Like I had David Ross, the catcher. He was the catcher. There, he hit the home run in the Game 7. He came to the show at the Improv. I did a show during the season when the Cubs were in town. He came to the show, and you hear him going, "Yes, you got it." And I saw him before Game 7. He was like, "Energy, yes, Brody." So they like saying that.
Yeah.
And from being a baseball player myself, that's where enjoy it came from. Little sayings. You're right. Everyone's got their little sayings.
Yeah.
So you just pick
Mine's
up.
candles are lit.
There you go.
Candles lit.
Candles lit. Yes. Nuts to butts. Enjoy. Whatever it was. Those little sayings.
Yep.
So awesome. Had a great job. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. And I'm off to New York tomorrow. And I'll be back in a couple weeks. So thank you. And everybody, leave a review and subscribe to this podcast. It helps. The more you subscribe and leave reviews, the higher it gets in the top 200 on iTunes. And this week it was number 162. So thank you so much. And come see me at the Stand all this week and next week in New York City and the New York Comedy Club. And then San Francisco, I will be at the Punchline December 15, 16, 17. So happy holidays, everybody. Candles lit.